morning. This morning I'm going to keep reading from Old Path White Clouds. It is Thai's telling of the Buddha's story, collected from many early Buddhist sources. He retold the story in a way that is easier for us modern people to understand. I really enjoy it. Now, I guess I wanted to address a few things that have been coming up in the internet realms. First, right speech is very important here, particularly in this group, but especially on the internet in general, where all we have, for the most part, is text. Unless we're sharing videos like this, we really just have a few words, visual representation of words. And that is easy to misunderstand. We're lacking a lot of context. We don't have body language. So it's easy to misunderstand each other's words. So this is a reason why we should be careful when we're selecting our words in responding to our good friends. We should be careful that our words are conveying what we intend to convey in a gentle way. When Thich Nhat Hanh talks about right speech, he includes this kind of gentleness in his definition. We may think we're just sharing the truth, but sometimes we do it in a very harsh way. There's always a more gentle way. So, also, on the theme of right speech, hate speech of any kind won't be tolerated. Depending on what it is, we will just remove people. Anyway, we will remove the comment. So if you notice anything like this happening in the group, please tag a moderator. We will do something about it. No bullying, no personal attacks on each other for any reason. Let's just share the teaching of Thich Nhat Hanh and ask for guidance. Ask questions about the teaching, about our meditation practice. Let's keep focused. Let's stay loving, gentle, wise. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. So, let's keep focused. I think the group is doing very well. For the most part, I'm actually amazed by the amount of focus we are displaying, and I'm amazed by the generosity of insight I see. People are quick to help each other here. Let's keep that going. Now I'm reading chapter 32. Hi Tina, good morning. This is called The Finger is Not the Moon. One afternoon, Sariputta and Moggallana brought a friend, the wanderer Dighanaka, or Dighanaka, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, to meet the Buddha. Dighanaka was as well known as Sanjaya. He also happened to be Sariputta's uncle. When he learned that his nephew had become a disciple of the Buddha, he was curious to learn about the Buddha's teaching. When he asked Sariputta and Moggallana to explain the teaching to him, they suggested he meet directly with the Buddha. Dikkanaka asked the Buddha, Gautama, what is your teaching? What are your doctrines? For my own part, I dislike all doctrines and theories. I don't subscribe to any at all. The Buddha smiled and asked, do you subscribe to your doctrine of not following any doctrines? Hey Ryan, Tarka Mitra, do you believe in your doctrine of not believing? So the Buddha is highlighting an inconsistency with this style of belief, the belief in no belief. Somewhat taken aback, Dikkanaka replied, Gautama, whether I believe or don't believe is of no importance. The Buddha spoke gently. Once a person is caught by belief in a doctrine, he loses all his freedom, even the doctrine of no belief. When one becomes dogmatic, he believes his doctrine is the only truth, and that all other doctrines are heresy. Disputes and conflicts all arise from narrow views. They can extend endlessly, wasting precious time, and sometimes even leading to war. Attachment to views is the greatest impediment to the spiritual path. Bound to narrow views, one becomes so entangled that it is no longer possible to let the door of truth open, even if this view is the view of no belief. Let me tell you a story about a young widower who lived with his 5-year-old son. He cherished his son more than his own life. One day he left his son at home while he went out on business. When he was gone, brigands came and robbed and burned the entire village. Good morning. They kidnapped his son. When the man returned home, he found the charred corpse of a young child lying beside his burned house. He took it to be the body of his own son. He wailed in grief and cremated what was left of the corpse. Because he loved his son so dearly, he put the ashes in a bag, which he carried with him everywhere he went. Several months later, his son managed to escape from the brigands and made his way home. He arrived in the middle of the night and knocked on the door. At that moment, the father was hugging the bag of ashes and weeping. He refused to open the door even when the child called out that he was the man's son. He believed that his own son was dead, and that the child knocking at the door was some neighborhood child mocking his grief. Finally, his son had no choice but to wander off on his own. Thus, father and son lost each other forever. The father had this belief that the son had been burnt. Even though the son had not been burnt, when the son returned, the father was not prepared to let go of this belief. And so therefore the father and son were separated. Father remained sad. Son remained alone. You see, my friend, if we are attached to some belief and hold it to be the absolute truth, we may one day find ourselves in a similar situation as the young widower, thinking that we already possess the ultimate truth. We will be unable to open our minds to receive the truth, even if truth comes knocking at our door. So, in this conversation, this guy is saying that he believes in no belief. The Buddha is saying that is itself a dogma. You're approaching your belief in no belief as a belief, so it is inconsistent. We have to go further even than that and leave open a space for the possibility that some belief out there might be the right belief. Haven't encountered yet the right belief, but I'm not going to fall into a dogmatic view of no belief. I'll just say, maybe, someday, I don't know, maybe, Until then, I'll keep my mind open. I'll follow freedom. Thich Nhat Hanh asked, but what of your own teaching? If someone follows your teaching, will he become caught in narrow views? So is the Buddha's teaching dogmatic? He's asking Thich Nhat Hanh, this wanderer. My teaching, the Buddha said, is not a doctrine or philosophy. It is not the result of discursive thought or mental conjecture, like various philosophies which contend that the fundamental essence of the universe is fire, water, earth, wind, or spirit, or that the universe is either finite or infinite, temporal or eternal, temporary or eternal. Mental conjecture and discursive thought about truth are like ants crawling around the rim of a bowl. They never get anywhere. My teaching is not a philosophy. It is the result of direct experience. The things I say come from my own experience. You can confirm them all by your own experience. I teach that all things are impermanent and without a separate self. This I have learned from my own direct experience. You can too. I teach that all things depend on all other things to arise, develop, and pass away. Nothing is created from a single original source. I have directly experienced this truth, and you can also. My goal is not to explain the universe, but to help others to have a direct experience of reality for themselves. Words cannot describe reality. Thoughts, words, stories will always be inaccurate, misleading. There's a direct experiential understanding. I use the word GNO. Direct experiential understanding. This is part of the reason why I have a regular meditation practice, to stay close to this direct experiential understanding. It's direct experiential understanding that clears away wrong views and helps us remember that we are already at home in the pure land of the present moment. So words cannot describe reality, neither can thoughts, neither a collection of words. Only direct experience enables us to see the true face of reality. Thich Nhat Hanh exclaimed, "Wonderful! Wonderful, Gautama! But what would happen if a person did perceive your teaching as a dogma?" The Buddha was quiet for a moment, and then nodded his head. Thich Nhat Hanh, that is a very good question. My teaching is not a dogma or a doctrine. But no doubt some people will take it as such, and many people have. Throughout time, space, as Buddha's teaching evolved and moved across the lands into various regions of Asia and now the rest of the world, over 2,500 years about, many people have taken his teaching as dogma, as doctrine, and they've solidified it. But we don't have to do that. And we don't have to get wrapped up in telling everybody they're wrong for doing that. But there's a deeper way to engage the Buddha's teaching. We don't have to approach it like a set of beliefs or a list of rules. The list of rules that we know of as the Pankashila, the 5 precepts of Buddhist lay people, or the rest of the rules that monks follow, they're really just descriptions of the mindful person in daily life. When we live mindfully, we find that it becomes more difficult to harm people, to harm ourselves. So we don't kill things, and we find ourselves lying less, stealing less. We don't commit sexual misconduct. We don't want to harm people or ourselves. And we don't get too wasted. We don't get too drunk or high. This one, if we become too intoxicated, it becomes more likely that we're going to harm others or ourselves. Now, these rules can be taken dogmatically. They can become commandments, especially in the Western mind where we're so used to the Abrahamic faiths with the God with the commandments. So I'm digressing here because there are implications for not taking the Buddha's teaching to be dogma. It's not like there's this list of beliefs either. Like, believe this, then you'll be a Buddhist. Don't believe this, and you're a Buddhist. There is early suttas where the Buddha teaches people who worship God, he teaches them the path to union with their God. There's a sutta in English called The Way to Brahma, where a person who wants union with Brahma comes to the Buddha, and the Buddha teaches him love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And he says, this is the way to your God. He said, other people teach based on words in texts, but I teach based on direct experience of Brahma. So the Buddha claimed direct experience of Brahma. So I'm just saying, Buddhism is not atheistic. But on the other hand, it's not a theistic religion. It's not like the Abrahamic tradition many of us are used to. The gods are still there, but they aren't ultimate reality itself. Ultimate reality itself is beyond thoughts, words, and stories, like we've been told in this reading. All thoughts and words and stories are conditioned, part of this conditioned conventional layer of reality. The gods in the Buddhist cosmology are also stuck on the wheel. They are coursing through samsara with us, different than us, having different capabilities, different lives, but they're also sentient beings like us. Yo! Okay, I'm gonna keep reading. That was a digression. The Buddha was quiet for a moment. Dikhanaka, that is a very good question. My teaching is not a dogma or a doctrine, but no doubt some people will take it as such. I must state clearly that my teaching is a method to experience reality, and not reality itself. Just as a finger pointing to the moon is not the moon itself. We don't look at the finger. We look to where the finger is pointing. Over there, pointing at that flower. An intelligent person makes use of the finger to see the moon. A person who looks only at the finger and mistakes it for the moon will never see the real moon. My teaching is a means of practice, not something to hold on to or worship. My teaching is like a raft used to cross the river. Only a fool would carry the raft around after she had already reached the other shore, the shore of liberation. So here with this raft, I think it's also important to recognize that we don't want to abandon the raft in midstream. So it presents an interesting problem. When do we abandon the raft? Well, when we get to the other shore. But how do we know we've got to the other shore? I don't know. It'll have something to do with our experience in daily life. Something about suffering. Something about insight and love. Dikhanaka joined his palms. Please, Lord Buddha, show me how to be liberated from painful feelings. The Buddha said, there are 3 kinds of feelings: pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. These three modes of feeling they correlate to the three poisons. I think it's interesting to note. The three poisons are greed, hatred, and delusion, or addiction, aversion, and apathy. We experience the pleasant and we become addicted. We experience the unpleasant and we are averse to that. We experience the neutral and we are apathetic. So all three have roots in the perceptions of mind and body. All three are pieces of the samsaric mind system. They drive this situation further and further. Feelings arise and pass away, like any other mental or material phenomena. I teach the method of looking deeply in order to illuminate the nature and source of feelings, whether they are pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. When you can see the source of your feelings, you will understand their nature. You will see that feelings are impermanent, and gradually you will remain undisturbed by their arising and passing away. Almost all painful feelings have their source in an incorrect way of looking at reality. Suffering arises from wrong view. When you uproot erroneous views, suffering ceases. Erroneous views cause people to consider the impermanent to be permanent. Ignorance is the source of all suffering. We practice the way of awareness in order to overcome ignorance. One must look deeply into things in order to penetrate their true nature. One cannot overcome ignorance through prayers and offerings. So it's not ritual alone that does it. It's direct experiential understanding. It's gnosis. It's the knowing beyond thoughts, words, and stories. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows the way. And I take refuge in the Dharma, this way that has been shown. And I take refuge in the community, the sangha, all of you, the Buddha gang, the community that exists in harmony and love, wisdom, insight. I take refuge in my spiritual ancestors. I take refuge in my biological ancestors and the web of life all around. A lotus for you all, Buddhas to be. So now I'm sitting here. I'm gonna make my back straight. And I'm gonna breathe 2 finger widths beneath my belly button. I'm gonna watch the breath come in and out. I'm gonna watch it in a way where I'm not caught in thoughts, words, or stories about it. Knowing it directly. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. In. And out. And in. And out. Now breathing in, I see myself as a flower. Breathing out, I feel so fresh. Flower. And fresh. Good morning, Dawn. Flower. And fresh. Almost bright light. We have a few more in the sequence. Breathing in, I see myself as a flower. Breathing out, I feel fresh. Flower. Fresh. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I feel stable. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I feel stable. Mountain. Stable. Mountain. Solid. Now breathing in, I see myself as space. And breathing out, I feel open. Space. Open. Space. Open. Space. Open. Breathing in, I see myself as light. Breathing out, I feel bright. Light. Bright. Light. Bright. Breathing in, I see myself as light. Breathing out, I feel bright. Light. Bright. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. And I repeat. I'm at home in the pure land of this present moment. Pure land. Present moment. Here now, at home, in the pure land of this present moment. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from harm. When they succeed, I feel joy. As my loving attention is spread equally across this mind system. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Beyond thoughts, beyond words, beyond stories, at home, in the pure land, the kingdom of God, in this present moment. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.